You're on Columbia's hottest podcast, Here for the Health of It podcast. I'm Dr. Randy. This is Dr. Tom. We have a special guest, Emily Crawford. You're a holistic health nurse. Wholistic Nurse Emily is your business name, right?
It is, yes.
Yep. And then you've worked at Garner's Ferry for 15 years?
Yes, at Garner's Natural Life.
Yeah. Cool.
Garner's Ferry, the road.
Oh, Garner's. Oh, yeah. Garner Natural. Oh, yeah. Garner Ferry. Garner Ferry is a road. It's not on Garner Ferry.
No.
It's in Trenton Plaza.
It's in Trenton Plaza.
Yes.
There is one in Lexington too.
Is there?
So there's
cool.
2 locations now.
Love it. And so where do people find you on Instagram? Is that your primary place?
So I do Wholistic Nurse Emily with a W because it's the whole thing. And yeah, that's the main Instagram is that. I do the social media for Garner's too, and that's Garner's Midlands.
Cool.
Nice.
So you got your nursing degree when?
In 2008.
Okay. And then walk us through what happened after that.
Well, I mean, I had been working in the hospital. I started working in the ER once I got my nursing degree. And then I traveled around a little bit. I moved to New Mexico and then moved to Asheville. And then when I was in Asheville, I worked at Great Smokies Medical Center, which that was back in like 2010. And it was a functional medicine place.
Oh,
so we had this huge like side of the office, which was all IVs, and it was chelation therapy and like ozone and like ultraviolet blood irradiation, like all the things. And I got really into like functional medicine, like nursing. And then I moved back to Columbia, and that didn't exist here. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do? So I showed up at Garner's. Like, I need a job doing something with supplements and something with like natural health because I can't do this. Like, I think at that time I was working at a nursing home and I was going to RN school. So I got my LPN first. I got my LPN nursing license in 2008, and then I got my RN in 2013. So when I moved home, I went back to RN school. So I was working as an RN, going to RN school, working at a nursing home, and then working at Garner's.
Just doing it all.
But I was trying to find like where I fit and like what I liked, and trying to find, how to do it.
Nursing's a tough job. Lots of people who go into nursing either try it and then don't like it, or they go and realize the shift work and the job requirements are not great.
Yeah. Nursing is hard. I mean, it's hard. Like 12-hour shifts, even like night shifts. Like I did like all the things, and I didn't last very long. In the grand scheme of nursing, like there's nurses that have like been there for like 30 years. And I honestly like so much respect for them because I have no idea. I couldn't do it. I think I just got burned out. My last hospital job was working on a post-cardiac bypass floor where it's people showing up for like open heart surgery. And like never in any part of their like path did they talk about like diet.
Right.
Did they talk about anything? I remember arguing with like the pharmacist to like let one of my patients have their CoQ10.
Yeah.
And I was like, why can't they have their CoQ10? They're taking a statin drug. They need their CoQ10. And I was just like, I can't, like, I felt so just like pulled apart, like with my belief system. So.
Did you have a personal health story, like a part of this journey? Like, were you seeking?
Yeah, I definitely did. I've had my own like challenges. Being a nurse, like, I mean, you definitely struggle usually with chronic fatigue because you're super stressed out. You're working, or really any kind of like healthcare. Like if you're doing 12-hour shifts, like you're usually chronically fatigued, like have anxiety, have all sorts of problems. I remember kind of my like wake up moment was I had gotten off of a night shift and I was driving home and I fell asleep while I was driving and I swerved. I hit a mailbox and it was just enough to be like, okay, yeah, this is like not working. So you need to do something else. And that was kind of when it was kind of, all right, well, where are we going? What are we doing? I have had my own issues with mold toxicity. So I did a whole like mold detox protocol and things like that. I got rid of a lot of my symptoms. And I think just kind of when you get back to like the basics of things and not being super stressed out, like, I mean, the hospital's stressful.
Yeah. And the whole environment doesn't seem like it promotes health. You're soaking in this unnatural light. You're in a box. You know, there's nothing. When I go there, I always think like, how could anybody get well there if they wanted to?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's good for crisis, but definitely not for achieving any sort of health goals or metrics. It'd be the wrong place. Now, I'm curious for the listeners too. Like, I like getting into the weird stuff, especially when we have like other health, holistic,
like the weird stuff.
Well, and especially in health, because I think a lot of people hear, like whether it's parasites, you mentioned mold, heavy metal toxicities, 5G and electromagnetic field stuff.
That's a whole nother, like, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wi-Fi. And nobody wants to talk about it. Like, once it's brought up, it's almost shot down right away, or people stop listening. And that's what I like about this platform, is because since it's the hottest platform out there, they're gonna keep listening. So tell us more about, like, first you finding that you had a mold issue, because I think that's also frustrating, because people are sick and they're trying all kinds of stuff, and it's something that might be in their household. Or how did you uncover that?
Yeah. So I had been, I think at this point in time, I had just, I was working at an endoscopy center, and I was still having some of my issues, like still like super sleepy, even though I was working like normal shift hours and things like that. But I was going to my like regular doctor, and I was just telling him, like, I have all these problems. Like, I'm just super tired. I've got like really bad migraines, headaches. Like a lot of like weight gain, just like feeling horrible, like a lot of the time. And I was kind of, I don't want to say I was reading books and learning, and then I would go back to him and I would like beg him to like run certain tests on me.
Yeah.
And so I was very much like managing my own, like, which was kind of frustrating, because, you know, you go to your doctor because you want them to manage your care. You don't want to have to be stressed out about it, right? You want to be like, hey, I'm putting my health in your hands. Help me. But he recommended I go down to the Center for Occupational and Environmental Medicine in Charleston. And I saw Dr. Weirs, and we just did a mold test, and it was positive. And
now, what does that test look like, though? Because you don't you detect mold in? It's not necessarily in your blood, right?
It's in your urine.
It's in your urine.
So this is a urine test. So you do like a urine test, and they actually kind of want you to like challenge yourself.
Right.
Because a lot of people don't like detox very well, right? So they want you to, I remember I was like running up and down, like doing like hill sprints. And then like sitting in the sauna. I sat in the sauna, I did some hill sprints. I did a glutathione IV, and then I like collected my urine.
No kidding. Yeah.
Because I wanted my body to dump everything I had into my urine.
Right.
Because like, I mean, you could have a negative test, but still be like holding on to stuff, and you would have no idea that it was positive. So I did that, got that positive test, and then kind of worked towards more like detoxing and like really focusing on that. And I did see a lot of my symptoms get better. So I think that was really
a key component. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard too, there's a visual acuity test.
Yeah, I don't know, like they didn't use that, but I have seen that. I feel like there's a book called Toxic by Neil Nathan. And have you seen that book?
I've seen that, yeah.
It's really good. It's really sciencey, so it's kind of intense for a lot of people. But they do talk about that like visual test. But I would notice that like my sight would seem like restricted a lot. What
about with lights? Like the thing for me was always like headlights. People that drive at night and they get in there and they have those headlights coming at them. It becomes really difficult to drive if they have a mold sensitivity.
Yeah, I do feel like you have more. It's so funny because I actually look at some of these things as some of my like strengths now, but you get hypersensitive to like everything. It seems like my sense of smell is like I can smell stuff from a mile away. My doctor was like, it's okay. Like you go first and you warn everybody else if something's not right. And I'm like, but I don't want that. Like I don't want to be the canary in the coal mine. And he's like, it's okay. Some of us have to do it. And I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, I do think that like a lot of your sensitivities or a lot of your senses get like hypersensitive.
Yep.
Because I did notice like my eyesight it would be like tweaked almost.
Yep. Now, what were some of the protocols you went through to actually detox? Like, what did you do once you found out you had mold toxins?
Yeah, I did a lot of glutathione IVs. That was like a big part of it. Were those a lot of like supplements? Calcium D-glucarate was one that was a big one. I took a lot of that. Just kind of like liver support, and it was like a huge process of just kind of like sticking to it for a long time.
Was there a protocol that you followed? Was there a certain dosage? Because for listeners, I know when you get down into these weird fields, like if somebody's like, oh my God, I have parasites, and then they go to look up how to get rid of them, or I have mold, or I have heavy metals, there's so much that they can't find like the actual how to do. Is that something like if somebody worked with you, you would walk them through?
Yeah,
and
for
then
sure.
kind of.
Yeah.
And then I guess manage the symptoms of getting well too, because you probably felt crappy first as your body's dumping out some of the stuff.
Yeah, you definitely have like the Herxheimer reaction or whatever you want to call it, but you feel worse before you feel better. It's such a, it's such a journey. Like, and I think the whole, like the right word is like to call it a journey, because like you have like peaks and valleys. Like things don't just get better and continually get better. Like you might have a good day and then you have like 5 bad days, or like you feel good for a couple of months and then like you maybe splurge or get off your routine and then you feel bad. So then you kind of have to but it's like navigating that whole process. And that's what I guess I do with my clients is so I know protocols are important, because I feel like, and even with like social media and like having a niche having something that you sell people, but everybody is so like everybody is their own person, right? And so I try to practice like bio-individuality. Like what you're going through is not the same thing as what you're going to go through. Or like my journey with like mold is not going to be what someone else's journey with mold might be. So a lot of what I did with mine was I took a ton of CoQ10, like a ton of CoQ10, and I did a lot of like mitochondrial support.
Yeah.
But somebody else might have more like histamine issues. I didn't really have a lot of histamine issues, so I didn't really have to incorporate that stuff into my but that's with my clients, I try to kind of just address their symptoms and kind of what they're feeling. And then you look deeper to kind of figure out like, why are they having those symptoms? So you address the root cause, you try to kill what's happening, but then you provide support for if someone's having chronic fatigue, you support their fatigue along the way, right? While they're still doing like the detox protocol. So it kind of looks different for each person.
Gotcha.
So I've been told with mold that if you can go away for 7 days from your normal house and work environment, and then you feel way better, you come home and you feel terrible, that's a good sign. You should go get tested.
Yeah, I think so. I think anytime if you leave where you normally are and you don't feel good, and it's tough here because we have so many like outdoor allergens too. Like I never realized that there's like mold in the air.
Yeah.
And there's dust in the air. Like I thought there was just dust in my house, like it was like an indoor air allergy, but not like an outdoor air issue. So I guess being allergic to a place, even if it's like a city, kind of stinks, because then, moving is your only option. But I think definitely if you leave and you feel better, then air quality is probably your issue.
Yep.
And then so what did you say? Hill sprints, sauna, and what was the other thing you were doing?
Glutathione IVs.
Glutathione IV. So
those make you feel really good.
Yeah, those are things that people could do anyways, no matter what, just as a general detox.
That are good, yeah. Like you need to sweat. Sweating is important.
There's a lot of people that don't sweat.
Well, I was one of those people. I think.
Never sweat?
Well, it's not that I didn't try to sweat. My body didn't like to sweat. So I have to like kind of force myself to sweat. And I'll even notice like if I would go to the sauna, the first time I would go, like I might start sweating at the very end.
Right.
And then the next time I go, I'm sweating a little bit more. It's I kind of hate the term detox pathways because like people are really using those a lot now, but you really do have to like open up your detox pathways and you really do have to sweat. And so whatever that looks like, whether it's like even just getting in like a super hot bath and sweating in the bathtub, like, or exercising, or I just joined HotWorks. It's so funny. I joined HotWorks, and then like that same like week was the week that I listened to Dr. Losby's episode, and he was talking about it, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm amongst this is good. That was a good decision. But
nice. Did you ever go to any of my workshops?
I was telling him back in the day, like in the very, very, very beginning.
It's probably what started your whole journey, right?
It was because I came to you.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, gosh, she's so familiar. Yeah, it had to be.
Well, you've shopped at the store.
Yes, and I used to send a ton of people to you guys because you guys did that. I guess I was wondering that. Did you self-teach yourself, or was it mainly my workshops that you learned everything?
I learned everything I know from you.
Because you guys are always great. When we have issues when it comes to like what supplement should I take for this and that, I always say like go to Garner's, talk to one of them there. They generally they're gonna have a section. They're gonna tell you the best one that can be specific to whatever they're trying to achieve. Because we dabble in a lot of that, and for a while I was getting I love the functional medicine side of stuff and the nutrition and all of that stuff, but it's a lot. And as you mentioned, like there is so much individuality. You can only take so much from a test and have them apply it. And then it's like, well, what's next? And then if they feel crappy, then they think it's not working, but that's also a part of the healing process kind of thing.
Yeah. There's very few tests that give you like an answer and it's just that.
Yeah.
That most things are not that simple. And that's where it's like you just do, and I hate saying like you just do the whole process, but it's like, you uncover like one issue and then you're like, okay, maybe somebody's, I don't know, going down like the thyroid like rabbit hole.
Yes.
And they're taking thyroid medication and it's not working. And they try like glandulars instead. And then that's not working. And then it's like, then they go to, well, what was attacking my thyroid? Was it a virus? And then they kind of uncover like Epstein-Barr, and then they do like antiviral protocol. And then they realize they kind of maybe messed up their gut a little bit because of all those antiviral like herbs that they were taking.
Sure.
And then you kind of replace gut stuff. So it's kind of not just like one answer. But I do feel like at Garner's, we try to, sometimes people come in and they're like, I want this. And it's like, okay, here you go. And it's easy peasy. But then sometimes it's a deeper story and you kind of have to ask those questions and kind of figure out. And so everybody at Garner's tries to just figure out what they need.
And you guys are pretty are you guys protected in the sense that you're not technically medical professionals, but you're giving dietary or medical advice? I don't know.
Yeah, I think when you get into trouble is when you're like, I guess, prescribing.
Gotcha.
Right? So a lot of, I think what we are doing is educating.
Okay.
It's like, okay, well, if this happens to be your issue, then this is what the research shows that can help this problem. Or even anecdotal evidence, and sometimes that we don't even have to do that. Like they come in and they're like, my girlfriend just said that she loves this this product and it did this and that, and I want the same thing. And so they come in already knowing what they want. If I have somebody that, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like if they come in and they're like, I have like neuropathy in my feet.
Yeah.
We start asking the questions of like, why do you have neuropathy? Is it like a structural issue where like you guys could help out?
Yeah.
Or is it like a blood sugar issue? And then could you take maybe herbs that could help with your blood sugar? So they're just suggestions. They're never like us prescribing anything. It's just kind of going by the research and educating people on what they can do to make things better.
Nice. You love CoQ10. Because I know that neuropathy CoQ10 is a big one too.
It's good. Well, everything I feel like mitochondria is like, but that's what I see results with is CoQ10. I love CoQ10.
It's interesting because vitamin D, for example, 12 years ago, I remember when we were talking about it, the medical world wouldn't touch it, wouldn't talk about it, nothing.
Yeah.
And now they're testing it regularly and realizing how many people are deficient. And now there's even more scrutiny, I guess, in the supplement world that's not very well regulated, where you can go to Walmart, take 10,000 IUs of vitamin D. It'll do nothing to your blood vitamin D levels. But then you can go take a good quality supplement, 5,000 IUs, and it'll go right back up to normal.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what that looks like for you guys as new supplements come in. Because who was Josh Axe's old one that they sold?
Yeah, Garden of Life.
Oh, Garden of Life, yes.
Well, he wasn't. That was Jordan Rubin.
That was Jordan Rubin,
and
yes.
then he joined
and
Josh
they sold
Axe
in Ancient Nutrition. But they sold, but when they sold Garden of Life, I believe they
Nestle.
sold it to Nestle.
Yeah.
So there's junk getting pumped into that sooner or later.
Probably so. That's actually one that I feel like we didn't see a whole lot of change until just recently. They did buy Solgar. So Solgar is under that same umbrella now.
Right.
And now like the out of stocks are insane. Like you can't get anything. Like when we place orders, like nothing comes in. So, I mean, there's probably something happening there with maybe like raw materials and like why can't they keep things in stock now? I don't know. Or also just like mass marketing when they start selling to Target and they start selling to these bigger places and the little guys can't get their orders filled. But we do a lot of like with the companies that we work with, we'll do like third-party testing where they have a third party, like outside party, then like test their products and you get a certificate of analysis that says like, this is actually legit what's in your capsule. This is what you're getting each time.
That's what we need. It has to be done. It's not, I don't think it's going to be done by the government. It has to be done by the private industry.
We have to ask for it. Yeah, for sure.
What are a couple good companies? So you said Ancient Nutrition. What else if somebody's walking in and saying, what company can I trust?
I trust Life Extension. I feel like Life Extension has been around for a long time and they do a good job. What other companies? I mean, honestly, I trust all the companies that we carry for the most part. I do have my favorites, but Life Extension is one. When it comes to herbs, I really like our herbal line, our Garner's brand. Because the private label company that we get our herbs from, they're a very good company.
Nice.
Also really like Gaia. Gaia's really good. Gaia's always been good. They've always done a really good job. And they do even on their like boxes where they have like, you can trace like where it was grown. And then you see the like the COAs on that to see like what actually is this herb that's in this pill. Because they're just looking at like the milligram amount. They're not telling you all the time like how concentrated this milligram is. It's just a weight. So a lot of companies will have like the, standardization and things like that with their products.
Gaia's into some weird stuff, aren't they?
Gaia?
Yeah,
Are
don't
they?
I thought they were.
What kind of weird stuff?
Like I don't know if it's their social media or like aliens and
oh no, that's a different Gaia.
Oh, all right.
That's not Gaia herbs.
Okay.
But I know what you're talking about. I think it's like
I have no clue what either of you guys know.
And I knew about the supplement brand, so I thought it was all the same thing.
No, I don't think so. I don't think they're affiliated. But I think there is like a Gaia that's kind of like the new Earth kind of and into kind of some alien stuff or something.
And when you get down the flat Earth pathway and all that stuff, I mean, there's some wild things out there. Now, are you into any cool conspiracies or what people think are conspiracies but are actually the truth?
I don't know. I try to like, it's funny. I feel like I very much live in a gray space of this could be true and this could be true.
You're
and
open.
I'm kind of okay with either of them.
Yep.
Like it's kind of just how you
just fluid.
Like it's
Yes.
I mean, I'm fluid, but I'm not like I'm fluid conspiracy theory fluid.
But are you barefoot banging on a bongo drum on a drum circle fluid or no?
Maybe sometimes.
Yeah, here or there.
I mean,
you dabble.
I think there is a video on Instagram of me like banging on a drum.
No way.
It was with Christina from Shavas.
Sweet.
We had a little drumming
and
session.
You were just
banging on some bongos.
I want
drank some cacao and banged on some bongos.
I want some bongos bad.
That doesn't sound like any fun to me.
No.
What? He's never, because he's not rhythmic.
That's
you gotta be rhythmic.
I feel like my rhythmicness wouldn't work.
Your energy would negate the frequencies that we're putting out.
I would say I'll be here to hang out, but it does not sound fun to me at all.
Oh man. So how much do you think mindset plays a role in health?
I mean,
like what you think, because also all these little weird things that we talked about I think that sometimes they freak people out. Yeah. Like, oh my God, I have parasites. Yes. And then all they think about is I'm sick. I have parasites or mold. Oh my God, I have mold. And this building I'm about to go into is, flat and old and there's going to be spores. And I'm going to walk in. And they're just building and building and building. And it's compounding, I think, then the actual physical effect of like, you're going to walk into a building, but now you've made that building 10 times worse. Do you do anything as far as mindset stuff?
Yeah.
And working with people on that? You
definitely have to find like a peace in your practice. And I do think it comes with time. I don't think that initially happens. I think, I know for myself, in the very beginning, I was very restrictive. I did all the crazy things. I took like the food allergy panels and
Yeah.
I did like the allergy elimination diets where I was eating like a couple of foods.
Right.
I feel like you kind of have to have that journey. It's not really fair to treat everybody the same way. And so you kind of like, someone who like is still eating at McDonald's like 5 days a week versus someone who's like already done a lot of the work.
Yeah.
They're not going to be on the same place. And so I think like, sorry, I'm like lost my train of thought there.
You're talking about mindset and how.
Oh yeah, because it can get
I think
overwhelming.
how they think about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming, and so trying to find.
It's a balance, right?
Yeah.
Because test me on this. I wish we could kind of look at this is before you knew and started learning about, say, mold, or anything that was bad for your body. Let's just say, throw it out there. You just were exposed to it or ate it and were happy. You know what I mean? Like when we're kids, I always go back to like when we're kids, and it's like, oh, there's popsicles and there's Doritos and Coke and Mountain Dews, and we're just hammering stuff and like playing videos, and everything was just like, this is great. And I don't really remember like bad sickness or anything like that. And I ate terrible. Mm-hmm. So I think like, as I started to learn, like, wait a minute, that affects performance, or that's going to decrease my energy, or that's going to spike my blood, now like that thought itself of knowing that, I think made me worse, to then you go insane and think like, oh, I can't, that has vegetable oil in it, I'm not going to eat that. Yeah. And finding that balance, like I wish there was a way to, and the way I do it now is like, I know that I eat 80-20.
Yes.
There's going to be 20% that I'm just like, it's just, I enjoy it. It's crappy for me, but I'm going to do it. Right.
Yes.
So that my mind is like feeling grateful that it's like, yeah, I just get to enjoy this. And then there's the 80% where I'm like, my body needs building blocks and stuff to make things.
Yeah. And I feel like you don't know what that 80% is until you do those restrictive protocol kind of things. And so you do kind of have to like go through that, that part of it. You do have to kind of do the restrictive part, kind of see like, what happens if I eat 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning? Well, I'm not hungry until like dinner versus like if I woke up and ate some pancakes. Like you wouldn't know until you did it. So you do kind of have to know.
Test a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but then like when you're on vacation, if you want to have some brunch and have some pancakes, like there's your 20%. Enjoy your pancakes and
hammer down a couple croissants. Yes. Don't be shy.
Yeah, but then I think you then have like a relationship with your practice a little bit better, but you kind of have to come full circle. Like, I don't think that you can be in the beginning and do it, because then you don't have any consistency with it. You probably just fall back into the same bad habits.
Well, and you don't realize how much you're underperforming until you do eat really well. Yeah. And then, so like, let's say that you're kicking a football 80 yards or 50 yards. And then you start eating really well and working out more, and then you're kicking at 75 or 80. In my case, I'm
like, I don't even know how many yards.
Because this is where I was.
What is he doing?
No, because this is what I was thinking. Because you could probably kick a football further when you were 28, or what were you?
Yeah.
Than when you were.
Yeah, it was 27.
Than when you were 16 or 17 years old. But the difference is, when you're young and just happy and doing whatever, you just don't realize you're underperforming in every area of your life until you start trying new things. Yeah. And then when you quit doing them, you go back to your old performance level and realize, I was happy, but I wasn't that good before. And then you get better at it.
Yeah. I think that's just like understanding and learning our bodies, right? Like you kind of know, like if I get into like, I'm really bad with like fragrances. Fragrances give me headaches, like hardcore. And so, I learn now, like I can't really have like a lot of fragrances in my home. So I have to have like some like phthalate free, like paraben free, like options. But like until like I knew that it was the fragrances that was causing it, like I was just walking around with a headache, So I think it's like once you learn on your body and you know what feels good, then like you do that most of the time, but then you still kind of like can enjoy
which seems obvious. Like people have scented chemical candles
like
in their house. They have chemical candles. They have air fresheners in their window still that are just basically sprayed on chemicals that destroy your hormone panel.
I was sitting at Clean Juice, and the person beside me had like 10 of those little like trees.
On them?
And no, like the little tree,
yes,
like air
on their
fresheners.
rearview mirror.
Yeah, there wasn't one or two. It was like a stack.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I would be like nauseous. My head would be pounding. But this person's probably just not even aware of like what's happening.
Right.
Well, and they're taking chronic fatigue medication, and they're taking thyroid medication, and they have trouble falling asleep, and they have trouble waking up.
Adderall to keep them awake during the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. I don't think people realize it.
Yeah, because Bath and Body Works, I mean, you can't even walk in that store. But I think of the workers. I think of the people that are just in there 8 hours a day, every day, and they have no idea how hormone disrupting that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those. I'm with you. I'm like, you do want to find the things to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had a question about like when you transition from medical nursing, let's call it, to holistic nursing. Did you have friends or family that were looking at you like you were a nutbag, and like, were there arguments, or were there like attacks, or like, why are you doing that, or any of that in the transition?
Not really. Not from my family. So my family is very like, we're very like crunchy, I guess. We didn't always used to be. Yeah. Well, no, we don't. I don't know.
You might at Christmas.
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know. Yeah. Usually for Christmas, it's so funny. We have like so many, like you guys would probably, when you go to like your holidays, are you just adjusting your family members?
Randy is.
Is that what you do?
28 people line up.
Oh yeah. Okay. So like I'm not a massage therapist, but my whole family, my sister will start. She'll be like, will you rub my back? And I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm rubbing her back. And then next thing I know, like I've got like everyone's there. So we're a little bit like weirder.
Yeah.
Just generally speaking.
Which is kind of nice though. I appreciate having a family that want to get adjusted versus a family that's like, I don't believe in it. We should just be taking drugs and painkillers and living with it for the rest of our life.
No, for sure. My father, he actually passed away from cancer, but he did whenever he got diagnosed. The options conventional medicine gave him were not good.
Right.
And so he decided to do macrobiotic diet and coffee enemas.
Yep.
So he was
Tim
working.
Losby loves those.
Yes. You don't have to put it like 3 feet up your butt.
But a good amount.
Just a little
2
bit.
inches.
More than a few
Yeah,
inches.
like a little bit, yeah. But he was doing like all sorts of stuff. He had this macrobiotic guru up in Swannanoa, North Carolina that he saw, and they taught him like how to do so much stuff. And a lot of it was, I remember there was a time when they had this like, I think it was a CD that they would play like while they were eating that would ding and tell them when they could swallow their food.
No way.
So that they were like chewing enough. Like you
makes sense.
have to chew your food, but it would be like so peaceful. We'd all sit there just
Right.
chewing, and then the ding.
And then it would ding.
So I mean, my family is very open to options.
Yeah.
And they've always been very respectful of kind of some of the crazy stuff that I've been into
Sure.
because they were kind of into it too.
No big challenges from friends or anything like that, like other nurses or.
Yeah, definitely other nurses. Some of them were more like, oh, what are you doing? I want to know more about this.
Right.
But then at the hospital, I remember even in the very beginning of me working in the hospital, I got like dubbed the like nickname the Weirditarian just because I was just doing weird stuff. Like I think at the time I was vegan. This was like 2002 or 3. I think I was vegan back then. They were like making fun of my diet. Like, so I mean, over the 20 something years of doing this, I've definitely had like people come and go, probably friendship wise, but you know.
For sure. I would say early on for you too, Randy, like I feel like there were a lot of just like battles. Like Facebook was kind of new. So it'd be like somebody would post something and be like, oh, no, and then it would be like, we're talking vaccines. We're talking anti-vax. You know, it was just a whole, and you'd spend the time and energy like arguing with somebody. And then over time, you just realize like, I don't really care. Like, I don't care about much of what people think at all, which is freeing in the sense that like, cool. Like, I'm going to live this way. And you can ask questions and if you want to learn and like go along with it, but you can also make fun of me and my family, and I'm okay with that too. Yeah. Like that's exactly like that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
But I think some people think like you can that by pressing still into like calling you the weird person or whatever, but not look like what they're not doing is looking in the mirror and saying like, well, how's my life and family looking? And I think it starts becoming like a jealousy sort of thing where it's like, oh, wow, she's not as sick as often or especially, well, let's go over the last couple years because I'm curious about your thoughts on the vid.
I have so many thoughts and it's like, do I share these thoughts or do I not?
And we're always careful about it too.
Yeah.
But I think let's just talk about it from the standpoint if somebody wants to heal, like say they get corona.
Yeah.
What can they do? Let's start there. And then I always think, okay, if this is what it is to heal from it, then why aren't we doing it now so we never get it?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And I think that's why I do what I do, because I like to give people other options. Like you don't have to just go run and get a vaccine and that's your only option. You can do other things. And you can do other things with other illnesses too.
Right.
So I think it's probably okay that I share. My daughter just had COVID a couple of weeks ago. She was sick for a couple of, 5 days or so. And I was sending her up, like she was quarantined. I have an adult daughter. She's 21. So
no kidding.
Yeah. So that's a little
nice.
But I was sending her up like her food. I'd take her food to her and I'd send her like a little cup of like all her supplements.
Yeah.
And so we were doing like vitamin C.
On like a rope and pulley or how are you sending that?
No, she has her room in her bathroom or upstairs. So I would like leave her little plate and everything up at the top of the stairs and I would like slowly back down the stairs like there's your stuff,
Right.
Just because like we didn't want to get sick. So, and I've never had COVID. I didn't get the vaccines and I've never had COVID.
Nice.
So I don't know if I'm doing something right or if I'm just lucky. I don't know. But
see, and that's what I think. I think more people should ask you like, how'd you do it? What are you doing? How are you living? That's never talked about. It's only talked about who's getting it. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing in any disease. Like we don't have to hammer on that, but I always think like we study the sick instead of studying the people that don't get it.
And even like the lab work, we're studying lab work on sick people.
We're waiting for pathology.
Yeah, we're making these like reference ranges off of people that are sick that are getting their blood work drawn. It doesn't make any sense. Like why? Even like vitamin D levels, like the range that your doctor wants it to be versus like the range that like your functional provider wants it to be is vastly different. Like, so vitamin D is definitely a big one for COVID. We were kind of talking about that a little bit before, just how important like having like a good like vitamin D level is. So I think like vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc is questionable because I think you could get into some issues with other minerals.
I just bought some zinc today.
Yeah, I think zinc is okay as long as like your copper ratio is okay. But especially for like women, a lot of times like iron, zinc, copper, those ratios can kind of get thrown off a little bit. And you could end up being copper deficient, which can cause some issues with like iron absorption and things like that. So I think kind of having a balance in minerals.
Is there a zinc test?
I mean, you can do like a micronutrient test and you can look at all of like your vitamins.
Against each other?
Mm-hmm, yeah. But again, like, the testing is only as good as the testing is good. So,
right. And it's kind of snapshotty because I was wondering about that. Like I like all those. I like the functional tests, but I think they're really short. You have to do them fairly frequent to see what changes you're making.
I think so too. I think whenever you do labs, and I love lab work. Like the nurse in me like loves labs. Yeah. Like I love labs. I like to know like where people are at, like what they're doing, and then you can decide to do something different. Like your magnesium level's low. Okay, let's take some magnesium. Like your vitamin D level's low. Let's take some vitamin D. Let's get in the sun. So like, but if you don't have the test and you don't know, then like you need that.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like if you follow your test, like if you were looking at something like hormones, if you never had hormones drawn before, you wouldn't know like if they were worse or better. So kind of whenever you're doing any kind of work on hormone balance, I think having like multiple tests drawn to kind of see like how things are.
Yes. I think the blood test for hormones is BS.
Yes, it is.
I think the only one I've loved is for cycling women, for women who are still cycling, is the saliva draw
Okay.
multiple times a month. I think it was like 11 different times you'll
Okay.
spit into
Yeah.
and then it will track the whole cycle throughout.
Yeah.
Because depending on when you draw blood or do urine, it's
Mhm.
just where you're at in that time of the month.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I do like the Dutch test. I feel like that's kind of like gold
Yep.
standard for hormones, and it can see so many other things other than just like sex hormones. So you're,
Right.
you see the cortisol, you see even like you can see like mold issues in Dutch test.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what test specifically you're talking about. That's like for the whole month, but it does make sense. A lot of women don't even know
Right.
if they're ovulating.
Yeah.
Like they don't know when to draw their sample because you're supposed to draw your sample after you ovulate. And if you go and you ask women, hey, do you know when you ovulate? Like they might not know. I know
Right.
this is like I'm hanging out with like bros talking about
No, it's
ovulation.
great. To me, it's so obvious. When my wife is ovulating, it's like her
Well, yeah.
skin, like you can almost see it in
Yeah,
a person.
yeah.
Like
She can't keep her hands off you.
Well,
Well, there's
no,
that
that's
part,
a whole.
too.
That's a whole month long.
That's every day. There's a spike though.
But it's very obvious. Like skin is soft,
Mhm.
in a good mood for no reason at all times.
Yeah, she
Like you can
loves
get
you a
away.
lot.
You can literally get away with anything for those 3 days of the month. But it always surprised me that people don't know. But
Yeah.
I think
There's
so
no
many
education.
people, and they're loaded up on birth control
Yes.
and
Mhm.
I mean all these synthetic hormones. It
You have
messes
no
with your
idea.
body.
Yeah.
Well, in
Yeah.
school, they should teach that in school. That's
They
like a
should,
middle
yeah.
school, like start learning about
Yes.
that kind of thing.
Instead of having like sex ed with like condoms, it should be cycle
Right.
syncing, and you can only get pregnant these days after you ovulate, and before you ovulate, like
Right.
this is what you got, you know.
Right.
And then I think more women would like maybe not like accidentally fall pregnant,
Right.
or like not have to be on birth control, or maybe realize when their cycles aren't right and then do something about them. Like,
Especially with all the technology now.
yeah. Well, so do you guys have Aura rings? You do.
Randy tracks his
Yeah,
menstrual
so-
cycle with his Aura ring, I think. I haven't got one yet.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
want my testosterone levels to be able to be checked.
I
on
don't
this.
know.
Do you see that coming at some
No.
point?
I
don't
ordered one of
know.
those,
I need to know
those
my-
Whoop things.
I
I got
want
one of those
daily
coming.
Yeah, I don't
testosterone
know
levels.
much about Whoop. I've had my Aura ring. This is an OG Aura. I don't pay for my subscription.
That's how old it is?
Yes. So I don't pay for like the app.
Huh?
Yeah, I've had it for like 5 years.
It's
probably.
so. How do you get your data?
Do you
It's
still
on
get
the app. I just don't have to pay for
you
it.
still get all the info? Because I did mine for a year and then I didn't renew it for a little while and it would just tell me my score, my 3
Okay.
scores, but then it wouldn't tell me how many minutes it took me to fall asleep and
Oh.
all those details. So then
Okay,
I had to resubscribe.
Yeah. So I'm like grandfathered in.
You
Sucks
are?
to suck,
Yeah.
Randall.
That's,
No,
that's
I do have
impressive.
like an old ring. Mine's like crusty and like all beaten up. So I
Yeah,
I
can
got
I
it like
see it?
forever ago. So mine doesn't have the infrared, so it can't do heart rate like in the moment. It can only track my heart rate whenever I'm at rest.
Yeah.
So I
it's
kind of
different.
hate that part of it, but I love the part that I don't pay a monthly subscription for it.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's nice.
So, but
So you're okay with EMF being on your body at all times?
I think so,
Ooh.
actually.
I am too.
yeah.
For the data that I get from it.
Mindset.
I haven't like noticed. I mean, for me, I notice more with my sleep if I eat before I go to bed.
Yeah.
And like, you know, they always tell you don't eat before you go to bed. And then like when you look at your Oura Ring score and you look at your sleep score and you're like, oh my gosh, my sleep has sucked. And like I ate right before I fell asleep. You think you're like sleeping hard because you've got like a food coma happening or something,
Right.
but you're not sleeping at all.
What
I
about
mean-
cocktails?
I don't drink. Like
You haven't? In how long?
Well, I mean, I drink sometimes. Like, I don't want to say I don't drink, like just flat out no.
Yeah.
But I might have like a glass of wine every 6 months or so. Like,
Okay.
I just don't drink. I just don't like I'm in the part of my life where like I want to feel good,
Yeah.
and drinking is not making me feel good. So I'd rather drink an orange
Smart.
juice.
Yep.
What about CBD?
I like CBD.
Daily?
I mean, I don't take it daily. I use it like if I have cramps or if I'm like sore or something, or you know, if I feel like I need it. Like if I were going to reach for something like Advil, I'd reach for CBD instead.
Nice.
Not a huge fan of some of the THCs, but I do like CBD.
Yeah. I like that you touched on with blood work, there's a functional range and a pathological range. Because I tell patients all the time, like, yeah, I checked my blood work, everything looks good. And I tell them, like, well, if the scale for them is say 1 to 10 and you're a 9, that may actually be out of the functional range, which might be a 5 to 7, right? So you're like on the high end, you're just not pathological. Like medically, they're going to mark it when it's pathological, 10 or higher in this made up test that I just did, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when they should start acting, is to try to bring that 9 back into the 5, 7 more functional optimal range for whatever blood work. So it's a good thing, like just talking with patients to get them just thinking about their own stuff and somewhat managing their own stuff, because doctors aren't.
Yeah.
And then also, like you touched on deficiencies, it's such an easy thing to think if you're building a house and you're missing wood, you can't really build a great house, right? And so I think of that with the body, like you mentioned, like magnesium deficiency, or when you're taking a statin, you're deficient in CoQ10, it's automatic, yet the doctors don't tell them. Yeah. So anybody on a statin has to be taking a CoQ10, otherwise they're missing wood and they're still trying to build a house. And in the body, cells are always dying and getting replaced, and they're just using the building blocks that are around. And to me, like deficiency, I'd rather over supplement and or over eat good stuff so that my body gets rid of more material that might be useful than not have it. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's just where you see like all these abnormal cells start to form, because the cell has to adapt to the environment. So if it doesn't have wood for the house, then it's going to use plastic or it's going to use styrofoam. And that's how I like try to teach patients on like why you need to make sure you're at least supplementing at some level. Yeah. So what basic supplements do you recommend just the average person take?
So the average
Joe, like a Randy.
Okay. So if there's nothing that's specific that you would want
don't use me. I'm a high performer.
All right,
we can do high performer like me after. Yeah.
Just for like a random person that doesn't have any like issues happening, I would think magnesium for sure. Just because we know like most of the people are deficient in magnesium, and like you're saying, you're pulling that from your like bones and your muscle, right? Like so that you have a circulating amount of magnesium, but like what are you doing for the structure of your home if you're not like replacing it? So definitely magnesium, definitely a vitamin D. Love a fish oil. For most people, if they don't want fish, then maybe like an algae oil.
Why wouldn't they want fish?
Some people still are like doing the non-fish option. But I think that having EPA and DHA is important. So I don't think going towards like a omega-3 from flax is a great idea. Yeah. Because the EPA and the DHA are where like the good stuff is. So if they don't want fish, then from like algae instead. Okay. But I mean, that's not ideal, but
how about just a multivitamin?
Maybe.
Like a women's multivitamin.
I think a multi's okay. I think that kind of gives you like your basics. Sometimes if someone has other things happening, and most people have something happening. And then I feel like sometimes we're wasting money on a multi when we could be being more therapeutic
put it towards something else.
Putting it towards something else. But for your everyday person that has like no issues, like I think multi is probably a great idea.
It just can't be from Walmart. Like I can't stress that enough.
I don't want to be Centrum. Yeah.
People are doing Centrum one-a-days. They're just junk.
If it has food coloring in it, like don't buy that. Like if it has titanium dioxide in it, don't buy that. Yeah. Like
if the first ingredient is maltodextrin, don't buy that.
No, we don't need that. Yeah,
now,
I think.
Or go ahead.
So vitamin D. So you said vitamin D. You didn't say CoQ10
because
you knew magnesium, vitamin D, fish oil.
I don't think that I think everyone should take it, but it's expensive. So it's like, well, do you? And when you get into CoQ10, you've got ubiquinol versus ubiquinone, and ubiquinol is just better, and it gets.
Is that the active version?
Yeah, it's the reduced form. So it's already reduced down a little bit, so your body doesn't have to do that work for it. Yep. But you're paying more. So I mean, like I take probably 400 milligrams of CoQ10 a day.
But it's
of ubiquinone is the one that you. Ubiquinol is the one that you take.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I think of that as an investment, though. You're making
I think
money
it's
on
cheaper to take it.
I would think so too. But I mean, I try to meet people where they're at. It's like, well, what do you want to do? How much do you want to spend? What do you want to work on? And so
I'll meet them where they're at. Give me one of their bank statements and credit card statements, and I'll tell them where all their money's going and shift that over to CoQ10.
Yeah. I mean, I do think CoQ10 is important. I think we're all getting a lot of mitochondrial damage.
Yeah.
So I think if you can support it, that's probably smart.
What about the refrigerated section at the supplement store? Like why? So is that why are some things refrigerated? Why are?
I think it's because, I mean, for us, we have sea moss in the refrigerator. That for sure needs to go in the refrigerator. Like it does not need to be like once you make it into a gel, you need to have it in the fridge. It doesn't need to, it's bad. You consider that a food and you toss it out after like 30 days because it's done. But
I've always wondered about sea moss.
Yeah.
Is it just straight from the ocean?
Yeah. I mean, it's seaweed.
Someone finds seaweed.
What's it taste like? Just crap.
And then they dehydrate it?
Horrible.
Yeah.
So someone's just going out to Kiowa.
I don't
getting
think they're gonna
seaweed
get from there.
or I don't know where would they get.
Most of it comes from St. Lucia. So it's coming from St. Lucia because like the water is very like clean and it's non-polluted, and there's different types. There's like a gold one that kind of is at the like surface of the water that kind of gets a little bleached by the sun, so it's gold. And then there's a darker like purple, like red, green kind of colored one, which is a little bit more nutrient dense and mineral dense. A lot of people see results with sea moss, and I think it's just because it's got minerals in it. It's got iodine in it, and people are not getting that in their food. So taking a little spoonful of sea moss, and they're getting a little bit of their needs met. So
you got to be big on salt, right?
I do like salt. I do think the salt craze is a little weird right now. I have people that come into the store and they're like, I want to put just a little piece of salt under my tongue. And I'm like, okay.
Wait,
I agree. I'm with you, and I'm glad that you're saying that because I got people all over me obsessed with salt, and I'm like,
I'm not obsessed.
I'm not bad. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think you have to be trying to dump it down my throat every 2 minutes.
I think there's probably like a huge correlation between us being so into salt and just adrenal fatigue. Like our adrenals are just like screaming, like we are stressed out. We're pounding ourselves with like water. Maybe we're dehydrated. And so we're like salt. But I don't think that just putting a little tiny bit under your tongue and letting it absorb is really going to do a lot. But I think if you're eating it and then maybe doing even like adrenal cocktail type situations, or I just purchased, we don't sell it at the store. So this is kind of, but I just purchased, it's called Quinton. You heard of Quinton? It's based off of this like biologist from like World War I. He was also in World War I. His name's Rene Quinton. But it's based off of just like seawater, and they microfiltered this like seawater, and then you drink it. So you like just drink. It comes in like a little sachet, and you just drink it. And that's kind of been my jam for a little while. I've been playing around with different salt just because I'm kind of like, all right, like, what is this salt thing? Right. And like, does it make any sense?
Gotcha.
Because I don't know how much of it, like, you know, when people say like, oh, when you go to the hospital, they give you a saline bag.
Yeah.
Like they do, but it goes straight into your vein. Like how much of it, when you're drinking it, it's probably more so helping your stomach acidity so that you can break things down, right? Because it's hydrochloric acid, right? So like it probably has something to do with supporting digestion when you're drinking salt versus actually what
getting
people,
into them.
Yeah, it's not going to be the same effect as like an IV, I don't think.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but I don't know. It's a fun discussion.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how the electrolyte drinks go from sugar and food coloring to now salt.
Yeah.
And I think it's just part of the salt craze. It's just transitioning from this sugar to this salt.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's all right now, it's all Celtic salt. So we don't have any Celtic salt in the store. I tried to order like, a gazillion bags and like, I can't get any, like it's gone. So it's all Celtic salt. It's not like just salt in general. It's because that's that one form of salt that people are wanting right now.
It's probably a good point for people to know that just table salt is not what we're talking about.
Yes.
Don't go and buy table salt.
No.
It has to be real salt.
Yeah, it needs to be. I think the good point with salt is that it needs to have a color to it, whether it's gray or pink or, you know, it needs to not have been adulterated and bleached. And
right. In Canada, don't they put sugar in their salt?
I think lots of places do.
Oh my God. What?
Yeah.
I don't think that's just Canada, right?
I don't know. I remember seeing
but yeah, there was a big, we for sure had things when it was table salt, and then you go look at the ingredients and it would say salt and then sugar. all the time.
Just slow
I know.
poison.
Yeah.
That
What
sugar just gets sucked into your cell.
And people love it. They're like, oh man,
Yeah.
this salt is amazing. And, oh yeah, it's loaded with sugar.
Yeah.
What do you think of, so I guess defining disease, like what makes people sick, as the inability to adapt to their environment? Because in chiropractic school, that was the thing that like just made it all make sense to me. And especially now as the common cold and all the crap's about to start happening, it was like, why do certain people get sick and then others don't? If it's just the virus or it's just the bacteria, then we're getting exposed to stuff, but not everybody is consistently sick.
Yeah.
And so I love that definition, because what that tells us is it's not outside of the body that's the problem. We can't control the environment, right? You're going to walk into rooms that have a ton of mold. You're going to walk into a place where there's a lot of virus, floating in the air. You're going to go into some filthy things. And the only thing you can do is get your body to a point where it is the strongest to deal with the environment, right?
I think that's 100% like accurate. Like you want to make your body work the best as it can in whatever that environment is. So like making sure like you can detox well and
right.
Yeah.
It just keeps it super basic, and it works across the board. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why I think as the whole craze of coronavirus and all this stuff is probably about to start happening, I hope the listeners look at it and go like, what can I do to make my body strong enough to deal with whatever, versus, let me wear a mask and try to avoid and control. Like that does absolutely nothing.
No.
And they've shown that. And it's scary to think that might be coming back as a thing.
I mean, I don't want to say I don't see it happening again, because I don't think I saw it happening in the first place.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that I think have learned a lot.
Yeah.
And so maybe they won't do the same things that they did the first time.
For sure.
But I do think that
You have more faith than I do.
I know. I already start seeing them. I'm seeing them pop up a lot more now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God.
I think when people get scared, they just throw common sense out the window.
Well, and I think that's the thing is like, I think it's really easy to say like, we just need to make our bodies like healthier, but that's hard sometimes. Like we live in a pretty toxic, pretty crappy world. And so there's no, like, I think I want to add that there's like no one's blaming anyone for having a body that's not functioning very well.
Right,
like mine wasn't functioning very well,
Right.
but it's like, you just have to figure out like how to make it to where your body does function well. And like, what are you missing?
Right.
Because, you just have to figure yourself out and support it however you can.
Yeah.
But hiding is not really the answer, I don't think.
I just can't imagine it. I think of it like not going to the gym, like that kind of, like, it's like, oh, we need to lift some heavy weights pretty soon. And I'm just going to not go to the gym and then wait until it's time to lift the heavy weights.
Oh, yeah.
And
You're going to hurt yourself.
That's exactly it. It's like,
Yeah.
that's why my biceps are getting so big, because I've just been thinking there's going to be some weights to move around.
There's people, it blows my mind that there's people that don't exercise.
Yeah.
Absolutely blows my mind.
Well, I think so. Like for myself, I had some issues with like the mold at that. I had this like exercise intolerance thing that happened where
For probably fatigue and all that. Yeah.
my God, I would exercise and I would get sick. Like I would get so sick, not so much the day after. It wasn't like a DOMS type situation. It was like 2, 3, 4 days later, I would have like debilitating migraines. And I was like, I don't understand. I'm trying to do the right thing. Like I'm trying to feel better. And so I think a lot of people, there's this quote, I'm going to mess it up, that you are most powerfully positioned to serve the person that you once were. And I feel like I see people like that like someone who's like, I can't exercise. Like, like I get it. Like I couldn't exercise. Like I've gotten back to where like now I can go to Hot Works and like I walk for like an hour and like I'm trying to like kind of get back into like, doing a lot more. But there was a time where it made me so sick. So that's where it's like meeting people where they're at and just kind of helping like support them. Cause like not everybody's body works the way we want it to.
But that's the minority. Your example is the minority. Most people are saying, oh, I feel great when I exercise. I just don't have time and I don't make it a priority. And I blame it on my kids and I blame it on my job and I blame it on the cost of a gym membership and whatever. I don't know, whatever their excuses are.
Yeah.
But most people, I think, can.
Yeah.
Without having debilitating migraines 2 days later.
Yeah. And if they can't do that, then it's like, just go outside. Like, go for a
do
walk,
something.
like move,
Yes.
like,
Yep.
baby step it until like you're doing something more. Cause you don't have to go from 0 to like 500. You can just like, and then eventually you'll be there. So
Is there any other weird therapies that you like that maybe people have never heard of?
Weird therapies.
Like you said, coffee enemas. So we've talked about that before. Have you ever done any like the sound healing, like vibrational stuff?
I mean, I've gone to Shavas like lots. So I've done like all the things that she has. I like doing breathwork classes. There's definitely like somatic breathwork. I guess that's kind of a little weird because you kind of pump yourself up, right? With like breath to get like kind of anxious. And then you let your body release what it needs to. And you have some weird kind of experiences and then you calm yourself down.
Is it one of the ones where you shake?
You
did?
Well, and all the ones I've ever done have been virtual. So it's really weird. Like I'll just be upstairs, like in my room, like doing like a virtual like breathwork session. And then I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is crazy. What other kind of weird
stuff? You got to do breath work.
I don't. I see people shaking and I don't know if it's real or not.
No, it is. It is. Like, I think people just, you hold so much stuff in your body. Like even things like, going to get a massage. And I don't know if this has ever happened, but like, as soon as someone like will like put their hands on you to like give you a massage, maybe you start crying or something. Cause it's like, oh my gosh, like I put something right here and I ignored it for so long. So people do store like emotions in their body. Comes out in weird ways.
That's wild.
Shaking weird stuff.
See, I want to get into some of the sound healing stuff where you're just like tuning vibrations into like things that kill stuff in your body.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I don't even know where to go with that. I was hoping
you better drop a beat. You might just need
some bongos or something.
I don't know if bongos are. I mean, you're more talking about like kind of frequencies.
No, like frequency.
Yeah.
Because I was watching something on like ancient bells.
Okay.
Where like they would ding them certain.
This is what he does. He starts with something like, so are you into things like, like you like massage and blah, and then before you know it, it's bells.
I was hoping she would say bells, and then I was like, great, that's where I need to start. No, but I like the tuning forks and all that stuff. Where I'm like, all right, there's something to that.
Yeah, the frequency, the vibration for sure.
I'm into all that.
Yeah.
I'm into all the energy stuff.
Well, I mean, when you think about like frequency, like at the store we sell homeopathics. And what are homeopathics?
Extremely diluted
frequency
versions.
I mean, it's just like, it's literally like a vibration or a frequency.
You're taking nothing.
Yeah.
You take like a drop of the thing that you're trying to.
But it's that frequency. Like, I mean, so it's like, that's kind of like crazy and weird, but it's been like a solution for a lot of people's issues for a long time.
It seems to work well. I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, nice.
Okay.
Well, how do people find you? Like if they want to work with you, what does a day look like? How do they contact you? What's that?
So I'm Wholistic Nurse Emily. That's holistic with a W. And that's on Instagram, or my email is holisticnurseemily@gmail.com. And if you want to hunt me down, I'm usually at a Garner store. I usually hang out at the Lexington store. So
nice. I think patients still get a discount if they mention my name, right?
They do. Yeah. They do.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have.
It's like a 10-year, maybe longer.
Yeah, it's been cool because I think I was asking Brett, like I think it was.
What year?
I came to like one of the events and I demoed like a greens drink or something, but I think it was Lindsay. Lindsay like invited us or something because she was like shopping.
Yep.
And she's like, "Do you want to come?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
But it was forever ago.
It was 2010 when I opened. I used to do a workshop every month for probably 3-4 years straight.
I think you guys came to like our fall health fair too a couple of times.
We did.
And like did some like chair adjustment stuff.
We need to do that stuff again.
We're having another one. The next one, oh gosh, I should have brought a flyer. I don't even know if I have the date memorized. I think
we should do a
23rd.
Yep. We should do a combo class or something.
Yeah, for sure.
and
I'm
just
down.
talk weird stuff.
Weird stuff. Like
Maybe we
weird
call it that.
accessible things or like weird things.
Bells.
Yeah,
A lot of
I'll bring a
bells.
bell, bring a tuning fork, some bongos.
You bring some CoQ10.
Yeah.
It's going to be an experience.
Well, you know how you guys always do like who should we have like on the podcast?
Oh, yeah.
So whenever we did the bongo drums, Noemi, who is an acupuncturist in town, she does. Oh, look at this.
She's
We're getting
coming?
like
Yeah,
a yes.
she's coming
Oh,
on.
is she coming? Okay, awesome. So she facilitates cacao, and cacao is like, it's plant medicine, but it's like a very sweet, not like an ayahuasca type experience, but it's enough to kind of like
Get you out of it a little.
Like, just get kind of like lighten the mood a little bit. Like
We're not talking drugs here, are we?
No, not drugs. No,
Okay.
definitely not. Like it's not like a mushroom or ayahuasca type thing.
Yeah.
I remember like before I drank mine, I was like, wait, like what kind
What's
of
gonna
level?
happen?
What level are we on here? But
Right.
it's chocolate ultimately. It's cacao, but it's ceremonial grade cacao. But she does facilitate cacao ceremonies, and whenever we did the bongo beating, we drank some cacao, we like chillaxed, and then we like beat our drums, and it was fun.
Just love that.
So maybe somebody can bring some like cymbals or some like little bells.
I'm telling you, dude. And no, but the problem is I'm into it, but I'm also not that serious of a person, and I start laughing,
It's okay.
and I can't control it. Like I cry,
Yeah.
and especially if Randall's there, just little. And I once had a massage therapist that did myofascial work, and I can't remember her name.
Was it Shannon? I've seen Shannon
It
before for
might
myofascial. I had a crazy experience with her.
Yeah.
It was insane.
There was times where it was like there was weird stuff that was happening that I'm just thinking like, I don't know if this is normal or not. And I'm like trying not to laugh, but I'm also trying to get into like did you do like standing and shaking?
I did the shaky thing. Well, I think all of that's just like moving.
Right.
I haven't seen her in a long time,
Right.
but I did probably like 6 to 8 sessions.
Yeah,
with
I did a
her.
bunch.
But they were, they're so long. It was like hours that you would be there. And I'm like, I just don't, I feel like
That's exactly it.
it's hard to put it into like your routine of like staying consistent with it. But the first time that I went, it was like I had eaten like mushrooms or something.
Yeah.
Because I literally like opened my eyes and it was like I could hear birds from like down the street.
Right.
I just felt like all of my senses were like activated. I walked outside because you know how she has like the little porch and like it's kind of like trees and stuff. And she's like, just sit here and integrate before you leave. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
I can't
I'm
move.
like, I just feel overwhelmed right
Right.
now. But I was like, this is insane. Like all you did was move my fascia around, like and like stretch things out. But
Right.
I think
It's good. We need a session. We need to do a team.
I
We
mean,
need a
yeah,
team.
I think you guys should do it. I think you should do all the things
And film
I'll
it,
totally
right?
come. Like film
'Cause-
it. Like all the weird stuff. Like
Dude, the standing and shake, like some of the stuff was like, cool.
Yes. Well, there's always a level of like when it's real, it's cool, but then there's also people that fake things.
yeah.
Like if you go on
You just don't
Instagram, you
know.
know there's a bunch of stuff that's fake. And I know there's a bunch of people that believe it, even though it's super fake.
Yeah.
But
But if
you never really know until
all
you
about what you
experience
like
it and figure it out.
I say if you like it, like you try it and you like it, then go with it.
It's whatever you
But
believe.
It's like not a, it's whatever. Like, and I, with like my cacao experiences, like I'm a big like kid when it comes to it. So I think I was just like laughing the whole time. Like I'm
Right.
beating on my drum like this is so stupid. But I'm
That's
like,
what
yeah, whatever.
Yes.
Like,
Yep. I'm
so
into it.
yeah.
Nice.
All right. Well, we appreciate you being on here.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
We're here for the health of it.
For the health of it.